The ocean doesn't sleep, it only pretends to. At night, the sea looks calm, flat, endless, harmless. But beneath that darkness, threats move silently. Drones skim low, missiles wait on launch rails, submarines listen, radar screens glow softly, never blinking. Somewhere in the Red Sea, under a sky without stars, a massive shadow cuts through the water. No city lights, no shoreline, just steel, reactors, radar, and resolve. This is USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, a floating airbase, a nuclear-powered fortress, a warship older than many of the sailors who serve aboard it, yet more relevant now than ever before. On her flight deck, crews move with precision born from repetition and danger. Every gesture is deliberate, every step measured. The wind roars across the deck, carrying the smell of jet fuel and salt. A fighter jet rolls forward. Engines scream, lights flash, hands signal. Then, without hesitation, the aircraft disappears into the darkness, launched into a night where enemies do not announce themselves. This isn't an exercise. This isn't a demonstration. This is presence. Because when global tensions rise, when shipping lanes are threatened, when diplomacy runs out of words, the United States does not send speeches. It sends carriers. And in this moment, Eisenhower is holding the line. To understand why this carrier matters, you first need to understand what it is. USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, known simply as Ike, is a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, one of the most powerful warships ever built by human hands. She was commissioned in 1977 during the Cold War, an era defined by nuclear standoffs, proxy wars, and the constant threat of global conflict. Many assumed ships like Eisenhower would be obsolete by now, replaced by drones, replaced by satellites, replaced by technology too advanced for steel hulls. They were wrong, because while technology evolved, the mission never changed. Control the sea, control the air above it, and project power anywhere on Earth without permission. Eisenhower displaces over 100,000 tons. She is longer than 3 football fields. Her deck can launch aircraft every few seconds for hours on end. And at her heart, hidden deep inside her hull, are 2 nuclear reactors. They don't just power the ship, they give her something priceless. Eisenhower doesn't need fuel for decades. She doesn't rely on ports. She doesn't ask for airfields. She goes where she's needed and stays. There's a myth that newer always means better. Naval warfare doesn't work that way. Eisenhower has undergone continuous modernization, upgraded radar systems, advanced command and control networks, improved aircraft handling, enhanced defensive systems. What matters is not the year a carrier was built. It's whether it can launch aircraft, sustain operations, defend itself, command a battle space. Eisenhower does all of that, and she does it without advertising her presence. The Carrier Strike Group Eisenhower never sails alone. Around her moves a Carrier Strike Group, a layered shield of destroyers, cruisers, submarines, and support vessels. Each ship has a role. Destroyers hunt missiles and submarines. Cruisers provide air defense. Submarines remain unseen. Supply ships keep the group alive. But the carrier is the brain. It is where decisions are made, where intelligence converges, where strikes are authorized or denied. When Eisenhower arrives in a region, the balance of power shifts immediately. The Red Sea looks small on a map. That illusion has fooled empires before. This narrow stretch of water connects Europe, Asia, the Middle East. Through it flows oil, trade, food, energy. Nearly 1/3 of global shipping depends on safe passage through nearby choke points. If this route closes even briefly, the effects ripple across the world. Fuel prices spike, supply chains collapse. Nations feel pressure within days, and this is exactly why the region attracts threats. Today's threats don't always wear uniforms. They come in the form of one-way attack drones, sea-skimming anti-ship missiles, fast attack craft, proxy forces backed by nation-states. These weapons are cheap. The damage they cause is not. A single drone can threaten a tanker worth hundreds of millions. A single missile can disrupt global trade. That's why carriers like Eisenhower are deployed here not to start wars, but to prevent them. A carrier without aircraft is just a ship. Eisenhower's real power lives on her deck. Her air wing is a self-contained air force. F/A, 18 Super Hornets, electronic warfare aircraft, airborne radar platforms, helicopters for search, rescue, and defense. Each aircraft type has a role. Together they form a layered web of dominance. Launching jets at night is one of the most difficult operations in military aviation. There are no runways. The deck moves. The ship turns into the wind. The pilot sees nothing but darkness. Yet launches continue because threats don't pause for daylight. Every successful night launch is a message. We are here. We are ready. And we are not leaving. Carriers are not helpless giants. They survive through layers. Early warning aircraft detect threats hundreds of miles away. Fighters intercept airborne threats. Destroyers launch defensive missiles. Close-in weapon systems guard the final seconds. An attack would have to pass through multiple barriers, each designed to reduce risk. And still crews train for the worst, because in modern warfare, complacency kills. Deep inside Eisenhower are rooms without windows. Here, officers track the battle space. Screens glow with radar data. Voices remain calm even when decisions carry enormous weight. This is where restraint matters most. Not every contact is hostile. Not every threat demands force. A single wrong decision could escalate a regional incident into something far worse. That's why carriers are commanded by experience, not emotion. Critics often ask, why carriers in the age of missiles? The answer is simple. Carriers don't just fight wars. They shape them. They deter. They reassure allies. They force adversaries to calculate risk. A carrier's presence alone can stop a conflict before it begins. And Eisenhower, despite her age, still does exactly that. USS Dwight D. Eisenhower is not a relic. She is a reminder that sea power still matters, that air power still decides outcomes, that deterrence still depends on visibility and restraint. Tonight, her deck lights glow softly. Jets launch. Radar scans. The ocean waits. And somewhere beyond the horizon, someone is watching, calculating, rethinking. Because the message is clear. The line is held. There is a difference between training and presence. Training assumes a controlled environment. Presence means uncertainty. When USS Dwight D. Eisenhower entered the Red Sea region, the threat picture was already forming. Intelligence reports warned of increasing activity. Drones launched from coastlines, missiles positioned near shipping lanes, radar emissions that didn't belong to civilian traffic. This was not speculation. Commercial vessels had already reported near misses. Tankers altered course. Insurance rates surged. And in the background, one message repeated itself across military channels. This is no longer hypothetical. Unlike wars of the past, modern naval threats do not arrive in waves of ships. They arrive as signals, small, fast, cheap, and relentless. A single drone costs a fraction of a fighter jet, but it can force an entire strike group into action. That imbalance is intentional. Unmanned aerial vehicles have changed naval warfare. They are hard to detect, cheap to launch, difficult to attribute, designed to exhaust defenses. They don't need to sink a carrier to succeed. They only need to force it to react. That's why Eisenhower's presence mattered, because reacting isn't weakness, it's control. The carrier's air wing could detect threats far beyond visual range. Destroyers screened the perimeter. Electronic warfare aircraft listened for signals no human ear could hear. This wasn't about firepower. It was about denying the enemy confidence. If Eisenhower is the heart, her escorts are the armor. Destroyers and cruisers fan out across miles of ocean, forming invisible walls of detection and defense. Their radar arrays scan constantly. Their missile systems remain armed, not as a threat, but as a promise. Each escort ship knows its role. Some specialize in air defense. Others hunt submarines. Some focus on surface threats. Together, they create a layered defense that turns open water into controlled space. And when a carrier moves through contested waters, these escorts are not optional. They are essential. Inside Eisenhower's Combat Information Center, time feels different. There are no windows, no clocks on the wall. Everything is measured in data updates, radar sweeps, and communications traffic. When a potential threat is detected, a chain reaction begins. Verification, classification, tracking, decision. Each step has protocols. Each protocol exists for a reason, because reacting too fast can be as dangerous as reacting too slow. This is where experience matters most. Carrier commanders are not chosen for aggression. They are chosen for judgment. Modern warfare is full of traps. An enemy may want a response, a misstep, a justification. That's why restraint is often the most powerful tool aboard a carrier. USS Dwight D. Eisenhower didn't need to fire a shot to dominate the battle space. Her presence alone forced adversaries to adapt, to hide, to delay, to reconsider. And that hesitation is often the difference between escalation and stability. To the outside world, a carrier is steel and firepower. To those aboard, it is a city. Thousands of sailors live, work, eat, sleep, and serve together in a space that never stops moving. Days blend into nights. Schedules are rigid. Fatigue is constant. Yet morale remains high not because the work is easy, but because it matters. Every sailor understands their role. Every job supports another. From deck crew guiding aircraft with hand signals to engineers maintaining reactors, to cooks feeding thousands every day. This machine works because humans make it work. Being deployed in high-tension regions takes a toll. Sleep is short. Stress is invisible. Mistakes are unacceptable. But the Navy trains for this reality because when carriers are deployed forward, they absorb pressure so others don't have to. They stand watch so shipping lanes remain open. They deter threats so conflict stays hypothetical. Critics often argue that land bases can replace carriers. History disagrees. Land bases require permission. They are politically sensitive. They are fixed targets. Carriers offer something no base can: freedom of movement. USS Dwight D. Eisenhower can reposition overnight. She can operate beyond borders. She can leave when needed and return when required. That flexibility is priceless. In volatile regions, it allows decision makers to respond without escalation and withdraw without weakness. A carrier doesn't just affect military planning. It affects perception. When Eisenhower arrives in a region, allies feel reassured. Adversaries reconsider timelines. Calculations change. That psychological weight is impossible to measure but impossible to ignore. Some see Eisenhower's age and assume vulnerability. But longevity in naval service is not accidental. It is proof. Proof of design that adapts. Proof of systems that evolve. Proof of crews that train relentlessly. Eisenhower has survived decades of change because her mission remains relevant. Aircraft still need decks. Missions still need command centers. Deterrence still needs visibility. USS Dwight D. Eisenhower is not meant to fight alone. She exists to prevent wars, contain crises, buy time for diplomacy. And when diplomacy fails, she is ready. As the sun rises over the Red Sea, Eisenhower maintains course. Jets recover, fuel lines connect, radars continue to scan. Nothing dramatic happens, and that is the point, because in naval power, silence often means success. The world is changing. Missiles fly faster, drones fly lower, satellites see farther. Some analysts argue that aircraft carriers are becoming too visible, too expensive, too vulnerable for modern warfare. And yet every major naval power on Earth is trying to build one, because no weapon has yet replaced what a carrier provides: persistent air power, mobile command authority, political signaling without occupation. USS Dwight D. Eisenhower may not carry the newest launch systems or the most modern hull design, but she operates within a system that adapts faster than any single technology. Carriers evolve, weapons change, aircraft upgrade, tactics shift, but the core principle remains untouched. Whoever controls the sea controls the pace of conflict. Recent events in the Red Sea revealed something crucial. Threats do not need to win battles to succeed. They only need to create uncertainty. Drones don't need to sink ships. Missiles don't need to hit carriers. They only need to force reactions. And yet, Eisenhower absorbed that pressure. Flights continued. Operations remained steady. Shipping lanes stayed open. That stability achieved without escalation is the real measure of success. USS Dwight D. Eisenhower has served through the Cold War, the post-9/11 era, the rise of unmanned warfare, the return of great power competition. Any ships of her era are gone. She remains, not because she is old, but because she is adaptable. As long as aircraft need decks, as long as nations need deterrence without invasion, as long as oceans remain contested carriers, like Eisenhower will matter. Presence is not aggression. Presence is reassurance. For allies, Eisenhower is proof that support arrives without hesitation. For adversaries, she is proof that escalation carries consequences. And for the global economy, she is stability moving at 30 knots. As Eisenhower continues her patrol, the ocean remains deceptively calm. There are no headlines, no sirens, no celebrations, just a carrier at sea, doing exactly what it was built to do, holding the line. Because sometimes the most powerful weapon in the world is not the missile. It's the ship that makes sure the missile never needs to be fired. The sun sets once more over the Red Sea. Jets are secured. Radar continues to scan. The carrier presses forward. Somewhere beyond the horizon, calculations are being made. And that is the point. USS Dwight D. Eisenhower does not need to announce her power. Her presence already speaks louder than words.